And this is about a journey, not a destination. Every day I'm learning new things about other people. And I have to be open to be willing to learn those new things. That really is at the core essence of all of this. So one of the things that really stuck to me is there's a gentleman, Robert Allen, who's a social activist, and his quote is, "Cultural differences will not separate us from each other, but rather cultural diversity brings a collective strength to that can benefit all humanity." Differences makes us our great nation. That's what we want to embrace. And as today's children are oh so different with each other, we as the adults and the professionals have to demonstrate that we can also work with differences. We are their role models for the next generation.
So June, in thinking about putting cultural humility into practice, I sense that there is could be a dilemma sometimes, because we all have our values and beliefs, and we might be supporting people whose beliefs are very different than ours. So can you tell me how you're able to manage that?
Well, I'll tell you, one of the things that happens many times in homes, because my elders taught me, when someone comes over, you ask them politely, would you like to sit down, and you offer them something to drink. Well, it is my traditional practice not to eat or drink things in other people's homes. Well, the first time someone will say, hello, welcome, would you like something to drink? And I'll say politely, no, thank you. And there's times where they've said it 2 or 3 times. And there was one instance where a woman came and she brought me a cup of tea. And the way she held it, and she said, here is a cup of tea in our best teacup. I drank that tea. I didn't even have to ask her. The way she presented it said to me that this was that important. So I since learned that if someone does offer me a beverage, that I'll politely say, and I'm really careful about how I say it, that is very kind of you to offer. So I want them to know how much I appreciate it, because I don't want to offend them. So I'll say, that is very kind of you to offer. No, thank you, but I do appreciate it. And then if they really offer it again, I drink the tea, or I drink the cup of water. Another professional had shared with me when she went to a home, there would be an entire spread of food out, and literally just for their visit. And typically we don't sit down and have meals with families. But in this instance, she first said, no, thank you, quite fine. And the woman said, no, this is how we do it. And when someone comes to my house, they enjoy a meal with me. And even though that's not something comfortable for us, and I'm not saying all professionals have to, but we can at least say, oh, I see that's really important to you. I appreciate that. In this instance, I will usually, as a professional, adjust what my typical interpersonal policy is and accept the food or accept the beverage, because it's meaning that much to them traditionally. Another example that I would use is, and this was an older child, they had walls in their home and a door, and he was an adolescent that I was working with that had some intellectual disabilities, and he was really wanting some boundaries from his family. In my values, I felt mom and grandma were being a little overbearing on this young man, and he needed some of his space. Despite his intellectual difference, he was still able to do so much. So I was recommending to mom and grandma, maybe you could give him some more privacy. Maybe we could start with just closing his door. And they both looked at me and said, what? And I said, I think closing the door, give him some privacy. And this was a family who was from South Korea. And I said, and they were really against this and said, no, that's not what we do. And I said, well, help me understand why. I just want to get more of a sense of this. And they said, we have no doors in our house or walls in our house in South Korea. The fact that we have walls here, he is the king of the castle, and we are all open here, and you're asking me to have us even more closed off than we are. And even though as a behavior specialist, I thought that was so important for him, therapeutically and behaviorally, I had to put that on the side burner, because I really wanted to side with him, so to speak, align with him to get his caregivers to alter. And on this one, I could not. I had to take that off as one of the goals and say, okay, this is your family. And I said to the young man, you need to understand that this is how your mom and grandmom do things, and you need to leave your door open for them. And that was one of the hardest instances for me to ever really let go, because I was trying to the power imbalance as an adolescent, starting to become a young man, starting to equal out that balance between parent and child. And on this one, I had to let go because the cultural piece was too important.